CHCO-TV, Channel 26.
All right, I think I'm on the air now. Am I looking in the right direction? I think I am. As people talking in my ear again. I'm trying to focus. I've come back after a long hiatus, and I'm back now, and people are talking in my ear. Nothing makes me more angry than when people talk in my ear. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Patry Live. In case you didn't know it, we're still in April, but May is Car Care Month. So I had this great idea. Let's talk about cars. So who better than Mr. Jason Carr, whose name actually includes the word car, to talk to us about cars, getting our cars ready for the month of May, for spring. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
How are you? Oh, you're more than welcome. How are you this evening?
I'm doing very well.
You ready to talk about cars?
Let's talk cars.
And how to get them ready for spring.
Let's do it.
Okay, I have a car. What do I need to do? Tell me everything from start to finish.
I don't think the show's long enough to do that.
It's not long enough to talk about everything.
No.
But okay, so everybody has a car. Would you say most people take care of their cars, and I don't want to say neglect them, but sort of forget what needs to be done?
That's a really tough call. A lot of people, really cherish their vehicles, and they look after them. They keep them clean. They're doing their maintenance on them on a regular basis. Some people use them as a piece of machinery just to get them from point A to point B, and nothing's broken until it just won't go anymore.
Now, I know, like when you get a new car or you go to a dealership, they give you this program where you should do this at 10 and some at 15 and some at 20. Are you a proponent of doing that type of maintenance, or do you think that's overkill? What are the basics that need to be done to your car?
I think in a lot of cases, preventative maintenance should be high priority on anyone's list. Today's cars are being built a little bit better. The maintenance tolerances are getting further and further apart, such as oil changes are not just every 3,000 miles or 5,000 kilometers anymore. They're reaching up into 8,000 and 10,000 kilometers. Oil has changed. The viscosities are going thinner and thinner.
Let me stop you there. What does viscosity mean? I thought that was like an Italian pasta dish, but I don't think it is it?
Almost, but this is one of those questions I think I told you earlier probably not to ask me.
Was that one of them?
No.
Okay, I take it back.
Viscosity basically is every engine is built to withstand a certain amount of lubrication, and the viscosity is just a scientific way of how much that engine
Is it
will.
like the thickness of the oil, or it's...
Kind of.
All right, density.
Yeah.
It's like the density.
Yep.
Somebody just said density, so I'm going to believe them.
Sure.
That's what it means.
Sounds good to me.
So do oils have different viscosities for different engines?
They do. Each manufacturer produces an engine based on efficiency. A lot of your newer oils now are synthetic oils, 0W20, 5W20, 10W30 is the old standby from years ago. So those types of oils, if you don't know what your car takes, it usually says right on the oil cap.
Yeah.
But you can refer to your owner's manual.
Now, see, I never open, is that the hood? Is that the thing?
Yes.
I never even open that, so I don't look in there. I usually go to the sticker on the side of the door, and it'll say what's on there, or I just leave that up to a professional like yourself.
That's right. If you take your car to your mechanic,
he'll
know exactly what it takes.
Okay, now here's another question. I got a lot of questions, so bear with me. Synthetic? Now, isn't oil synthetic to begin with, or I guess a natural thing?
Right.
But what's synthetic oil made out of, or do you know that?
Synthetic oils basically are manufactured oil, and they're engineered to last longer, so that they don't break down as quickly. So therefore, the rule of thumb is you can go longer between your oil changes without having to pay out all that money all the time. You're going longer distances between your oil changes.
Right.
And synthetic oil generally costs a little bit more, but it works out in the end.
Okay. Now, as you know, Jason, this is a call-in show.
Sure.
And I always tell people to call in And our number here is 855-529-8826. So if you have any sort of basic questions, let's not get into anything too technical because then I'll have to help Jason out and I don't want to make him look bad. But if you've got general car questions about how to prepare it for spring, get it ready, the oil changes, tire, it was time to take off the winter tires, isn't it?
Right, that's
Although
right.
it's been cold and we had snow a few days ago. But am I okay to drive in my summer tires now, my all-season radials?
I think so. Generally, the rule of thumb is as the temperatures start to get above 0, it's almost time to start getting ready for spring. Get those all-season tires back on. If you have studs in your winter tires, they do have to be off by the end of the month.
What happens if, okay, I don't, but what happens if I don't take them off?
Studs
Start
are,
tearing up the roads?
well, in theory.
Well, that's not good.
In theory, studs are a little bit noisy, so when you hear a car go by that's got studs in the snow tires, you can hear it, and so can the police. So.
Right, okay. So you shouldn't be driving tires with studs in July.
That's right.
That's the rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's a
you
pretty
need
good
to put on your regular summer radials or all-season radials. Yep. What about white walls? Anybody have white walls
White
anymore?
walls are to each driver's discretion.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't see them around anymore.
No.
I haven't seen them in years.
Almost a thing of the past.
Is it?
Yep.
We should bring that back.
Maybe.
Okay, so let's talk about everything I need to do to prepare my car. I've taken off the winter tires and we've put back on the summer tires.
Right.
Now, oil change, is that a good time to get it done in the spring, or do you just do it every 5? Well, I guess it depends on your driving habits.
It depends on your
doesn't
driving habits, it does, and each vehicle is going to be specific to how many miles you can go or kilometers you can go between oil changes. And again, you can refer to your owner's manual or your garage will tell you when you're due. But to get your car ready for spring, in most vehicles, you want to keep your tire pressures at a certain tire pressure, and on the door of your car usually tells you how to or what pressure they should be at.
Now, did you know that they put nitrogen in tires now?
They do.
So you're aware of this?
I am.
Okay, so before we used to put something called air.
Yes.
Okay, you'd go down to the gas station, there was a hose, you'd turn something, and it would come out and the bell would ring.
Right.
But we don't want that anymore. We want nitrogen. Now, where does that, is that like a, what is that? I don't even know what it is. It's a gas.
It is a gas, and it's basically, that nitrogen is naturally occurring in the air already, the air that we're breathing. So what the nitrogen does for your tires is it helps reduce the change in tire pressure due to the temperatures in the air.
Right.
So in colder temperatures, you can lose air pressure. In hotter temperatures, you can gain it. So nitrogen is a little bit less resistant to that. It's also better for your steel and aluminum wheels. They are less prone to corrode or rust.
Okay, so it is a better gas than just plain air.
Right. I mean, it's basically you're taking all the oxygen out of the air. So with oxygen comes moisture. Moisture can, chew away at the steel wheels inside and help or aid in deterioration prematurely of your tires.
Okay. And now this is not something I can just go to the local gas station and fill up. I should bring it to the dealer to fill up with nitrogen.
Most of your dealers have nitrogen. Some of your big box stores that have a garage would have nitrogen. Maybe not every small shop like myself would have it.
Right.
But if you are inclined to get that, then you can find it pretty available in your.
Now on my car, I have something that tells me the air pressure of each tire.
Right.
Now I usually just ignore that and I just flip to another screen.
Sure.
But I guess that's something we should be keeping an eye on.
It is. It's another aid that that has come out in a lot of your newer vehicles. It's called tire pressure monitoring, and it tells you when one tire or multiple tires are getting low on air pressure. And the benefit of that is if you're driving down the road at a higher speed and you're losing pressure rapidly, then you can get pulled over safe in case you have a flat tire.
Right.
You don't want it to be going flat. And
now the little tire that's in the trunk, the spare tire, would that have nitrogen in it as well?
Not necessarily.
No.
Some of your newer cars today aren't even coming with spare tires.
Really?
So you basically you should know if your car has one.
But what if you don't have one?
Roadside assistance.
Oh, okay, right. Which most cars come with today, and
When
they're
they're new,
usually
yep.
they get a long warranty or whatever. They give you quite a few years of roadside.
That's right.
So they'll just come over and fix the tire.
They'll come over, fix the tire. If your car has no spare and the tire is beyond repair, then they likely would have to tow it back to their shop.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it didn't come with little tire. Not even the little donut anymore.
Not
Wow.
all, but some. I know in the used car business, when we're preparing our cars, we're checking all that stuff, and you pop the trunk, and underneath that little lid, there's your spare tire. Usually, some vehicles, there's nothing there.
So what's in that space? You put like
Storage.
pop, Coke, and your lunch or whatever.
Yeah,
you
there's little storage compartments for for your luggage or for whatever.
Wow,
Yep.
It's amazing, isn't it? Technology and changes. I mean, how long have you been in the car business, Jason?
I've been in the car business for almost 9 years.
Right.
But I've been in the automotive industry almost my whole life.
Because your dad owned it, although he's still there. I
Yep.
see him when I go over there.
Yep.
Gordon.
Yep.
Gordon Carr. So he's very much involved.
He's very active. He's still there, although he talks about slowing down and stepping back a little bit.
Yeah.
He's still there every day.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. This is really not to do with maintenance, but just something that popped in my head. What is the biggest change you've seen in cars in the last 20 years?
The biggest change I think that I've seen in cars over the last 20 years is simply the old adage that they don't build them like they used to. Cars are becoming safer, therefore they're lighter weight. They've got different safety things like airbags and seatbelt restraints, and now a lot of them are doing braking for you and checking your lanes and stuff like that. So the technology in cars have certainly come a long way in the last few years, that they're almost autonomous.
Right.
Almost ready to drive themselves. I'm not that far yet myself to let a car do that, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you can get in your car and put it in gear and go, you still have to know how to operate your vehicle, and all that safety stuff that's surrounding you is keeping you safe.
Right. Now what about brakes and things like that? Is that something that should be checked once or twice a year?
Yeah, a good time to get your brakes checked if you're the type of person that has a set of winter tires and summer tires. There's 2 times a year that your mechanic has the opportunity when they're taking those wheels off to check your suspension components and your brake components to see how they're wearing.
Because that's something you don't want to ignore.
Absolutely not.
And a lot of people do, I think.
They do, and like
because it's just sort of out of sight, out of mind. I drive it every day. I change the oil, every 10K or whatever it is, and then the other stuff I don't worry about.
Most people don't realize something's broke until it's broke.
Right.
They hear a rattle, the rattle gets worse, and they said, well, I got to get that looked at, and they never do. And sometimes it's too late and leaves them on the side of the road, but if they're proactive, they can get into their mechanic, get into their shop, and determine what's wrong with it.
And now computers and stuff like that are now becoming a big component of cars, and navigation systems and sensors. So you as a car dealer and as a mechanic and as a shop, you guys really have to be aware of all these things going on in the business.
It is. There's a lot of things with technology. The way cars have come over the last 10 or 12 years has really grown. So you take a mechanic who went to school 25 years ago, may not be aware of how this new stop-start technology works in these brand new vehicles. We haven't seen a lot of that yet at our shop, but in the next few years we're going to start seeing more and more of this new technology coming in through our garage as these vehicles start becoming out of warranty.
Right.
They're not feeling like they're obligated to go back to their new dealer.
Right.
They may go to their to their mechanic, their small garage somewhere, and we have to make sure that we're on top of that, knowing what to look for.
Now you say stop start. What's that?
It's a fuel saving measure in newer vehicles.
Oh, I have that in my car.
Yeah, you pull up to a stop sign, the engine shuts off.
Now, the first time I test drove the car, Of course, nobody told. See, you taught me something about our car tonight that I didn't know, and well, I won't even get into it. But the first time I test drove the car, I stopped at a stop sign, and the engine just shut off. And of course, I'm thinking, I've broken the car.
Done something now.
Something went wrong, and this is going to cost me. But then, as soon as I put my foot off, take it off the gas or off the brake and put it on the gas, it starts up again. And now what happens is every time I come to a stop sign and somebody's in the car that don't know I have this, they say something's wrong with the car. So it's almost just an annoyance more than anything. But they tell me over a 10-year period, you save almost 55 cents in gas. Is this even possible?
I think it's a little more than 55 cents.
Is it?
Again, we talk about certain phrases that we use in the industry, and one of them is that when you're sitting idle at a stop sign, you're getting 0 miles to the gallon.
Right.
So you're needlessly burning that fuel. And with today's technology, they got it set up so your car shuts off. A lot of hybrid vehicles do the same thing, and it's just a fuel saving.
Right. Okay, now I see, now I don't know, when is our break, Patrick? We're taking a break soon? 3 minutes, okay. I know you got a lot of stuff here to show, so we're going to take a break in a few minutes. I'll have to ask you another couple of questions, and then we can go over, look at some of this stuff that people should be aware of. And, okay, so we've talked about oil, we've talked about tires. Do I need to do anything with the transmission or anything like that, or is that?
Yeah, there's, according to different manufacturers, your maintenance schedules for things like replacing your transmission fluid or your differential fluids, brake fluids, power steering fluids, they're all intermittent things you should be doing on a basis according to your maintenance schedule.
Right.
If you don't know what that schedule is, refer to your owner's manual, or your new car dealer can help you out with that. And you should be following that schedule pretty closely.
The only time I open the owner's manual is when the clock radio needs to be changed. Other than that, I rarely look at it. It's in the glove compartment buried in there. And I suspect I'm not that much different than other people. Now, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm, the only guy that doesn't look at it. But I mean, I suspect some people are very diligent about that, and other people are like me. They expect somebody like you to take care of these things.
We sell used cars, and quite frequently, used cars, we're cleaning them out, and we look in the glove box, and there's no owner's manual in there.
Right.
And sometimes it's one of the first things that prospective customers look at and say, can you get me an owner's manual? And today, with technology, it's available online. So most of those answers, if we can't answer them for them,
right,
they're available online or in your owner's manual.
So what do you think they're doing with the owner's manual? Keeping it as a souvenir?
Well, for some short people, maybe they're using it to keep them up. I don't know. But I don't know where they go. But again, sometimes these used cars, they're they get cleaned out before we get to them.
Right. So then, but you can download all that stuff online.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so you know what, Patrick, I'm going to take a break now. We're here with Jason Carr, and he calls 855-529-8826. We'll be back, and Jason's got a whole bunch of stuff to show us, and we're going to now physically see some of the things that we've been talking about. Break time. Here. I'm looking at myself on the monitor. Geez, I look like a sad sack. I don't know what's going on. And people have come up to me and they said, Rob, what happened? On the old shows, your beard was brown and now it's all white. Have you stopped coloring it? And I say, no, I'm coloring it white now because, yes, I'm partaking in Charlotte County's first Papa Hemingway look-alike contest. So if anybody else wants to join me, come on down. But if not, I'm going to win because I look just like the great writer himself.
I've got a good start.
Yeah, well, you're getting there. It's not as red as it once was. So here we've got Jason Carr. Is the camera even on Jason? I hope so. There he is. Jason, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break in the green room. You had a little something to eat, some refreshments.
It was great.
It was great, wasn't it? Okay, so any questions, 855-529-8826 for either Jason or myself. Don't ask me anything about cars because I don't know. I know how to back it out and I know how to drive, and that's about it. But other than that, this is your man here. We've got some stuff to look at. You've brought some props.
I have.
This is what in the TV business we call props.
Sure.
You call them other things, but that's what we say. Bring out something and let's talk about it.
Well, I think the first thing that I want to share, and this is one of the easiest and least expensive fixes that nobody ever looks at, and this is your air filter. Now this comes out of my own shop truck, which is sitting in my yard right now without an air filter.
Right.
I brought it for this
so
purpose.
it needs to go back.
It needs to go back, but I've got a new one for it.
We got a fresh one.
So the big difference between the old and the new is pretty clear.
Right.
The difference in the dirt versus
Okay, I'm going to
clean.
grab this because I don't want to touch the dirty one. Now, how old is this one here? After how much time?
I would say this is probably a year.
A year. So it goes in looking like this, and then it comes out looking like that.
Right.
And then you replace it with this. And will you put that in the dishwasher, clean that right up, or is that garbage?
No, this is a paper filter, so it is recyclable.
And what is this filtering exactly?
Basically,
Can we see that?
it's filtering out dust.
Okay.
Out of the air. If you drive down a dusty road, your engine needs clean air to
So
burn.
it's not for the people in the cabin.
This particular one is not,
Okay.
although there are cabin air filters which
Right.
filter the air going inside the vehicle.
Okay.
Yep.
So, when I was a kid, we used to call it the inside of the car. Now they call it a cabin. It's like a 747. Isn't that great?
Almost as luxurious.
Almost as luxurious. Okay, so this is to keep the engine free of dust and
Keeps it
build
breathing.
up and stuff like that.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So it does get quite dirty in here.
It does, and I won't do it because it'll make a mess of the counter here. But
Yeah.
if you pull these apart,
Right.
in some cases you can pull things that mice.
Is that beard hair?
No, that's this is off of some trees. You've got the little helicopters that come off
Yeah,
of the trees
they get stuck in
and leaves
there.
and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So this helps filter that out and keep your engine running smooth.
Okay, so this should be done once a year as part of a good maintenance preventative maintenance.
Preventative
program.
maintenance. Again, anytime that we bring a vehicle in for a simple oil change, we'll check the air filter.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be changed
Right.
once a year.
Right.
But if we're checking it,
Right.
easiest way to check that is to take a flashlight and hold it behind it. If you can see the light through it, you're doing good.
Okay, and then somebody will come out and say, Mr. Patry, because I like to be called Mr. Patry. Mr. Patry, you need a new air filter. Or Rob. Rob's fine. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you.
Hey, you is good. Okay, so this is the air filter. So this is an important part of the car to keep an eye on and make sure that that's kept clean.
Especially in today's vehicles. Most of today's vehicles are fuel injected. They have sensors reading or measuring the amount of air coming into your vehicle.
Right.
So we've seen in the past vehicles come in, they're running rough and they don't know why. And first thing we do is check that air filter. Sometimes there's not one in there.
Right.
So it's sucking in all the dirt and dust coming in through there. And
we don't want that.
That's
we
right.
want a nice clean filter. Do cars still have catalytic converters?
Yes.
I don't even know what that is. I know that name. Because they didn't used to, and then they started having them.
Yeah.
And I just remember that. But I don't know what it is. I don't even need to know.
Okay.
It's one of those things that popped in my head. Okay, so what else have we got here?
Well, we talked about oil changes.
Right.
And this is a used oil filter
Okay.
from a Chrysler product. And as you can see, it's pretty black. And all the fins in that are swollen up a little bit and holding up some, they're quite dirty.
Okay.
And in comparison to a new one that you pull out of a box, You can see the difference in what the old
So
and the new.
again, what's the time frame between new and that?
On this particular vehicle, it's probably somewhere in the vicinity of 8,000 kilometers.
Okay.
So between each
7 months.
6,000. Yeah. It just depends on how much you're driving,
Right.
and the type of driving you're doing. If you're doing city driving, you may want to do it a little bit sooner.
Right.
So basically, when you change the,
Well, I can smell the oil.
you can smell it after I open up the bag.
Right.
And with this type of cartridge filter, they generally come with a new O-ring for the cover, and the O-ring basically seals the oil in the compartment that that sits into.
Okay.
And if you're doing oil changes yourself, you want to make sure you lubricate that so it doesn't seize into place.
So, would you recommend doing this every oil change?
Anytime you change the oil, you should be changing your filter as well.
Filter.
Yep.
Okay. So hopefully everybody remembers to do that when they go to their dealer or they do it themselves, to do the filter as well.
Right.
And
So-
again, any questions, call us in, 855-529-8826. Now, what else we got here in your little...
Well, seeing as how we're talking about changing your oil,
Okay.
I brought a few samples of what new and old oil should look like.
Right.
So, coincidentally, I did the oil change in my wife's van this afternoon. So this is the oil that came out of it, and when we replaced it, you can see the difference between what oil goes in looking almost like honey. It's very
Right.
clear and translucent. This one is thick, you can't see through it at all.
Wow.
So over a period of time, your engine is filtering out. That's what that filter does, is it filters out the dirt and particles. Your oil breaks down. It's not lubricating as efficiently as it should when it's new, so that's why we have to replace them.
Now, this is brand new oil. How much oil will go in the car, like in terms of liters? Is there an average, or?
There is an average. Your average vehicle holds about 4.5 liters. Some vehicles out there will hold anywhere from 3.5 to
Right.
7 or 8, depending on the size of the engine.
Okay. And now, when you change that, you guys dispose of that.
That's right.
How is that done?
We have different people in town who use used oil, for instance, to heat their garage in the wintertime. So they have special furnaces that will take this. They filter the dirt out of it and they'll burn it. It's efficient, and it's a great way to heat your shop. You figure you've got a pretty big building, and every time you open up one of those garage doors, you lose all your heat. So burning
So you
used
can
oil.
recycle this oil?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You can recycle the oil for different purposes. The filters also, I mean, in New Brunswick especially, the recycling programs for things like tires, oil, and filters are pretty strong. So we have different things in place to get rid of this oil when it's done.
Now, if you put, this is a silly question, but I'll ask. If you say a car holds 4.5 liters of oil, when you empty it out, does 4.5 come out, or is it less than?
You certainly would hope it does.
Right.
Older engines, as they wear down, they may tend to burn a little bit of oil. Again, if they get older, they can leak through certain gaskets and seals. So sometimes, we're doing oil changes in older vehicles, and you're only getting 3 liters or so coming out of the car. And again, older engines will tend to burn more oil.
And I'm sure you've seen cars where they haven't changed the oil in a long, long time.
Yeah, and it's one thing that we look at when we're buying vehicles. We check the oil in them. If the oil is black as tar and hardly any on the stick, then generally we'll stay away from that.
So now, do people still look at the stick and do all that? Because I never do any of that.
If you're driving a newer vehicle, it's less likely that you would ever be in a position to have to check your oil. It's always recommended.
Yeah.
But that's what that stick is for.
Okay.
They call it a dipstick.
Dipstick.
Yep, it's in there. It's got a certain spot on there
Right.
to measure where your oil should be.
Yeah.
It tells you if you have to add it if it's too low.
Yeah. Every now and then, I suppose, over the years, I would open the hood and look at it and ignore it and put it back because it made me look like I knew what I was doing, but I never really did. Now, mind you, I do know about frying oil, so I guess it's kind of the same thing.
Maybe.
And well, yeah, maybe not at all,
No,
I guess,
wouldn't
really.
want to drink that
You
stuff.
wouldn't want to drink it. But I do think it's fascinating that people burn that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we when my father had the transmission shop on the front street in
Right.
St. Stephen, of course, transmissions hold a lot more oil than your engine does.
Right.
So we always had an excess of used transmission oil. So he had a clean burn furnace
Yeah.
that filtered that old oil and burnt it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could leave that shop at 80 degrees in the middle of winter, 24 hours a day, and you still have lots of oil left over.
Wow, that's actually very, very interesting. And then, okay, so now we've talked about oil. What else have you got down there? You got all sorts of jars and...
We've got all sorts of stuff. Some of it looks pretty tasty too. This is not Kool-Aid, folks. This is antifreeze, and the reason why we've got it in two different colors is these are the two.
These are both antifreezes.
These are both antifreeze.
Okay.
Most of your vehicles, most people recognize antifreeze in the green
Looking
form.
like this
Looking
one.
like this. A lot of older vehicles use that. Some newer ones still use the green. This kind of pinkish orange color, again, this is the same type that I would put in my wife's vehicle.
Right.
But General Motors used a product, they called it Dex Cool. It's pretty popular with the GM products, but a lot of people are using them now. The newer engines have different requirements, so they've got different types of antifreeze.
Okay. So now this one, I've seen this one on my driveway sometimes over the years, and that's not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
That means I'm leaking.
Yep. Yeah,
Right.
and of course, antifreeze is cooling your engine. It's helping keep things cool. It runs through your radiator, gets cool, goes back into the engine. Without it, you're not going to run
And
for
I
very
think
long.
that when this has been on the driveway, it's come from the radiator, that it was leaking somewhere and that would be on the driveway.
Yep, the most common place for antifreeze to leak is usually through a hose, because hoses are made out of rubber and they will deteriorate over
Right.
time. So, you know, that's one of the things, again, that your mechanic should be inspecting when you take it in.
You know what I'm learning tonight, Jason? A car is a very complicated thing.
It is.
And we take it for granted, I think. You know, somebody like me jumps in there every morning, drives it for a bit, parks it at night, and you just think, well, it's going to take care of itself, but it doesn't. We have to help it along. We have to take care of these things.
We do. If you want your vehicles to last long, you need to be, I mean, if you're not the type of person, like you've suggested, that isn't mechanically inclined to check this stuff yourself, that's where having a good mechanic or somebody that you trust to be checking this stuff for you when you take it in.
Right.
If the only thing you're ever going to do to your car is change the oil,
Yeah.
then when you go into your shop and your mechanic is looking at these things, have faith that he's checking on all this stuff for you.
Right.
Because if you're not, somebody has to.
Right. Yeah, so when I bring in for an oil change, he's going to do like one of those .21 or 72 point inspection where he goes around and he checks all these hoses and tubes and things like that. Because there must be a list of things that are very common that they deteriorate over time and need replacing, and filters and that type of thing.
There are, and in New Brunswick, in southern New Brunswick, especially where we have the constant freeze and thaw in the wintertime,
Right.
Our vehicles take a beating. You know, potholes open up and, you know, they
Yes.
get filled, but it doesn't take long before they're back there again. So suspension components are one thing that we will check every time you bring your vehicle in, and that will help, you know, look at these things and make sure that there's not something happening. People get clunks and rattles. They're calling, you know, all the time saying, you know, I've got this squeak or this rattle. Don't put it off. In most cases, if it does go for too long, it can be dangerous.
Right. So if I hear a noise in the car, and I might be a bit embarrassed to explain to you that, you know, there's like a kerclunk, 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 because you may or may not know what that is, but it's best I tell you about it.
But if you could do that again for me, I might be able
Kerclunk,
to. There you
kerclunk,
go. Yeah.
kerclunk.
Okay. See.
Yeah. No, this is fictitious. My
Sure.
car's not doing that, but it might.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you know, because I can't say, well, it's coming from the back door, there's a body in the, well, I shouldn't say there's a body in the trunk, because usually there isn't. But having said that, there could be something that you may be aware of where you could go and check. Now, do you get a lot of that? People with strange noises and sounds?
Yeah, once in a while you get the somebody on the other end of the phone trying to describe the noise that they're hearing, and in most cases we just suggest that they bring it out, and we take it and see if we can't experience that ourselves.
Right.
Because what some people may refer to as a rattle could actually be a clunk.
Right.
And in this business, there is a difference. So.
And I know that over the years, again, because I've owned a couple of cars over the past, the 80 years that I've been driving or whatever it is. I don't think it's 80, but it feels like it sometimes. But I hear a noise that it's almost constant, and then I'll take it to a mechanic and it stops, almost making me look like a fool. And yet, the minute I leave, it starts up again. What causes this? Is this something that can be explained rationally?
As far as looking like a fool, I'm going to leave that one alone.
Okay.
But in most cases, that seems to be a common thing when people come into our shop. They can't duplicate the problem.
Yes.
Again, it's good to check everything to make sure that there is nothing loose or nothing that's about to happen. Before we send them back on their way.
Okay, so you try and work with them.
That's right.
So that you can, because obviously they're just not making this up just to drive you nuts.
No, they own their car, and when something's different, they know it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that drive it every day.
Yeah.
And because when they come into the garage, the mechanics who work there, they're the professionals.
Yeah.
And it's not like this isn't their first rodeo. They've seen this, they've heard it, they know it before. So they have a pretty good idea. In most cases, how to go about finding what the customer's trying to describe.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, from my perspective, I do sympathize with the mechanic many times because it is a very complicated thing. I don't know if you know this, but there's dozens of different types of cars over many years and models and changes. It must just, and you got to have all these computer diagnostics that when we were kids, those types of things weren't even necessary. All cars are, as you said, basically very simple. You could open it up and look, but now you need to run these diagnostic tests and the sensors, and it must be a lot of work for you guys.
I mean, it can be. The biggest thing with check engine lights is a big issue that people have.
I hate that one. You
In
know what I do when that comes on? I ignore it.
No, that's not what you should be doing. No, you should get it into your mechanic. The check engine light has basically two stages. It's an orange light, and orange means it's a warning. It's not serious yet.
Right.
If the light comes on, don't be afraid to take it to your mechanic and have them read that code.
But I am afraid. That's the problem. I see that or that service engine soon, and I start to worry.
Well, ignoring it doesn't make it go away, unfortunately.
No, okay.
So there are simple things, or there are some things that cause that light to come on that are very simple and quick fixes. For instance, if you fuel your vehicle while it's running, it can trick the vehicle into thinking something's wrong.
Okay, so like I leave the engine running while I'm putting gas in?
Some people will do that.
Is that kind of dangerous?
It can be. In the wintertime, people try and do that to keep their vehicles warm. It's not recommended to do that. They say getting in and out of your vehicle in the wintertime can cause static.
Yeah.
And you go and you reach for that gas pump and you get a little spark, that can cause,
You know what I do in the wintertime is just before we go get gas, this is a good tip for everybody at home, make sure the car's nice and warm. I go to the gas pump and then I get my wife to go out and do it, and then I'm fine. So then I don't have that chill of going outside. That's just a thought, just a tip, a little tip for you folks at home.
That may not work for all makes and models.
You know what, I'll probably regret saying that, but I'm not thinking, and it doesn't matter. But okay, so some people do that, and then that tricks the light.
It tricks the light. It's part of your emission system. Your fuel systems are pressurized, so if the gas cap is off, it can't pressurize.
Right.
So there's a few things that will cause that engine light that are minor.
Right.
That won't generally, and they're easily, you can reset them and away you go, and you don't have a problem again. If it's a serious issue, the light will be blinking. And then you'll know already that there's a problem, because if it's blinking, chances are the vehicle's not working right either.
Right.
If then it's a more serious issue. If you can't drive the vehicle any further, you may have to get it towed into your shop. But get it there and have your mechanic take a look at it.
Okay, so I believe it's break time. Is that right? It is break time. You're watching Rob Patry Live with my special guest, Jason Carr. We're talking about how to get your car all prepped up for spring. Next month is Auto Care Month. So we should all be taking care of our cars. Anyway, we're going to talk again in a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. There we are. We're back with Rob Patry on Rob Patry Live. Our guest is Jason Carr. We're talking about cars, oddly enough. Now, did your dad get into this business because of his last name?
No, I think it just worked out that way.
It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
But it is unusual, you got to admit.
We get those comments all the time.
Do you?
People
It's
call
nothing
in
new.
and,
It's not like I just said this and, oh, I never thought of it.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember years ago on Monty Python. You ever watch that, the
Used to
English
once in a
show?
while.
And there was a fella, and his name was Mr. Smoke Too Much. And the other fellow said to him, well, you better cut back. And he looked at him and he said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you smoke too much. And it never occurred to him. And I'm wondering, you know, geez, I never thought car and car, but it has. Yeah. Okay, well, that went nowhere, but that's okay. Most of my bits don't. Okay, so you got a couple of other things to show us there. You got like a little pen, or a, that's pretty good.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on this TV or not. This is a tire gauge, and what this does is this measures the amount of tread you have left on your tire.
Right.
And anytime a vehicle's tire is getting down, your tires have wear indicators built right into the tire to let you know that it's probably time to change them. The amount of tread that's on a vehicle can range from anywhere as 8 30 seconds to 16 30 seconds for a truck tire. And that's how they measure them, is in 30 seconds. So when the plunger's down like so, you just press it against the tire until it stops, and then you can read the measurement here.
Oh, I see.
And that's a pretty good indicator for tire replacement.
Right.
You know, if a customer comes in and they're complaining that their car is hydroplaning because there's no tread, is usually the case. So we can measure that and give that to the customer.
And what is that, hydroplaning?
Hydroplaning, if you're driving your car down the highway and you hit a patch of water, that water can lift your car off the ground and slide you around. And you could have a serious accident.
Excuse
if you
me.
don't slow down.
So that's because the tread is starting to wear out on the tires.
Right. Yep. So the other one that I brought, this is something that everybody knows what it is. It's a tire pressure gauge. So if you don't have tire pressure sensors on your car, then you can use one of these that measures the amount of pressure in your car. Everybody should have one of these in the glove box.
Now, I do. Well, I don't anymore. I always did. And it just sat in the glove box for years, and I never did anything with it. There's a lot of stuff like that in my car that I know what it is, but I never do anything with it. That's awful, isn't it? I'm a horrible person.
It's a good thing you're driving a fairly new vehicle.
Right. That's and that's the kind of person. I'm not sure. I shouldn't be driving like a '67 Rambler or anything.
Maybe not.
Okay. So, but this is something good that people should have in their car. It's like an emergency kit, you know, the flares and little cones, and you recommend that for people?
In today's day and age, most people don't have that sort of thing. They have cell phones, so they can call somebody pretty quickly to have them come to the rescue.
Okay.
Whether it be roadside or a friend or mom or dad.
So I don't need one of those?
You probably don't, but I mean,
Right.
if you're off in the middle of nowhere and you break down, then
I have one of these phones, and I got your number, so I can call you pretty much 24/7 if there's a problem, right?
Almost, yeah.
Almost,
Yep.
okay, because you're always available. That's good to know. All right, so I don't know if anybody's going to call in, But we had a gentleman here, our cameraman, Doug. I think Doug had a question.
He did.
And what was his question? You can take both sides of this.
Sure, I'll play the caller and the guy who's going to
there
answer.
you go.
So, Doug wanted to know, how does your car know that the tire pressure or a tire has gone down?
Right.
All your new vehicles today have tire pressure sensors, and I should have brought one with me to show you, built right into the tire, inside the wheel. So the valve stem where you put the air into the car or into the tire, on the other end of that, which you don't see, there's a sensor that's measuring how much pressure is in that tire. So if it loses pressure, it sends a signal. It's already reading that from your vehicle, and sends a warning to you, letting you know that the tire has gone down.
Yeah.
And some vehicles, Mercedes for instance, if that sensor goes off and lets you know that your tire, it'll reduce your speed and it won't allow you to use cruise control. So you can safely pull off to the side of the road and make sure there's no problem or fix the problem.
Yeah, because cars today now, as we had talked about a little bit briefly, I mean, there's these sensors when you go to change lanes, lights come on, you're too close to somebody, things happen, they parallel park themselves. I mean, it's getting very automated. What are your thoughts on that as a car man?
As a car person, I wouldn't want to be the person having to diagnose a problem should it arise.
Right.
However, I think that a lot of these safety features that they're implementing into these new cars are just that. They're not meant to allow you to drive or let something else drive your car for you. You're still the driver. You still need to know the rules of the road. These are aids. You know, just like cruise control is a convenience for you. A lot of these vehicles now allow you to have lane departure warnings. So if you start wandering outside your lane, the steering wheel vibrates and the buzzers buzz and let you know that, you know.
Do you think it gives you a false sense of security in some ways? Or?
I think to some people may think that, but ultimately it is just an aid. Just like a backup camera is becoming a popular feature on cars. And apparently by 2018, all new vehicles will have one. You don't want to rely solely on that backup camera to make sure there's not a truck coming down the road at 30 miles an hour.
Right.
You still need to be using your brain and looking to your left, looking to your right. That's an aid.
Yeah.
And just that.
You know what I like is my heated steering wheel.
I haven't experienced that
No,
yet.
you get in the car and you touch the steering wheel and it's warm. See, because I got a whole cold thing, as you can tell, and I don't like cold. But this is it's like a heated seat. You have those in your car?
Yeah.
Love it. And I love the heated steering wheel. But like, how do you fix all that? Like, how do you, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot as much as to say, geez, you got to know a lot of stuff. So I go into your shop and I say, well, my steering wheel's not heating anymore. Like, there's a lot of intricacy in a car, or that little screen, you know, the GPS, and you know, this little screen does everything. My car, I don't believe, has any buttons for hot or cold. It's all done through the screen. So if something happens to the screen, that's a major problem.
It can be. We've experienced it in some cases where a certain part of the entertainment system will fail, or a heated seat will quit working. And you've got to do some troubleshooting. You know, Google is a great tool. You know, we've also got a computer that we use to plug into the vehicle. Those are tools that we have, just like a screwdriver, that allows us to fix, you know, certain things or look at certain things on the vehicle that you normally wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have it. So, cars are becoming more technologically advanced. We need to work to keep up with that as well. So it's a never-ending thing. Every time something new comes up, we've got to learn how to do it. All your new car dealers, those guys are specially trained for those pieces of equipment that are coming in those new vehicles that they're selling. So you know, their dealerships will send them away and keep them constantly trained. Guys like us, the independent guy, we have to learn from experience, unfortunately.
But it's something you have to know.
You got to know.
And I know that most of your business is selling cars, pre-owned vehicles, but again, a major part of that is knowing what to do. somebody buys a car from you, I'm hoping that you would want them to come back for maintenance. So you need to be on the ball with all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's a big selling feature for any place that's selling cars. You want to be able to service your customers, and if you don't know anything about the cars you're selling, then you're not much good in that fashion. So keeping up with that stuff is a must. Right.
And what do you think what is the most challenging thing about new cars, let's say in the last few years? Is it the computer? Is it this not knowing? What would you say it is?
I mean, the technology certainly is come an awful long way. There's very rarely now can you go out and buy a car that is stripped down, a bare bones. I mean, you almost can't buy a standard transmission in some vehicles today. So people who are used to the old school, flicking switches and buttons and stuff for their heater, aren't keen on these push button screens to turn their heater on, and so on. So I think technologically the vehicles have come so far, but maybe too much in some cases. So I think that may play a hindrance in some people buying something.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, because it's probably just that I'm so overwhelmed by the thought of this, and you're obviously accustomed to it and you're aware of it and you know it, so that it doesn't seem quite as frightening to you. But I'm thinking, geez, if I was a mechanic, where would I begin? Because everything seems so different and so complicated. And back in the day, it was, the window didn't work, so you got a new crank, and that was it. But now everything's automatic.
I mean, you can only stay away from certain vehicles for so long.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good idea of certain vehicles, of common issues that they may have had in the past. We've worked on them, so the more you do it, the more you know. But you can only stay away from that technology for so long. It's creeping up fast, and again, if you're not on top or not with it, then you're going to be behind the 8 ball.
And you don't want to do that.
No, that's right.
Because part of your sales is after service, right? So now, before we're going to be ending the show like in about 5 minutes. I want to make sure you get in a plug for your dealership.
Sure.
So you go ahead and say what you got to do, look in the camera, and you can do yourself a free ad.
Well, we call ourselves Olde Carr Auto Sales. We don't just sell old cars. We used to have a radio commercial that said the only thing old out there is Gordon, which was my father. So we late model vehicles, what we have 4, 5, and 6 years old. We have on-the-spot financing. We give lots of warranty with our vehicles, and we also have service after the sales. So that's one of the big things that we pride ourselves on, is being a used car dealership that we can service our customers after the fact.
Now, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You know me and my questions. Is late model mean it's a new car or an old car? Nope. I never understood that. When I was a kid, I used to watch Dragnet, and they'd say, well, it was a late model Ford. And I thought, is that new or old?
That's new.
It's new.
Newer.
And yet late sounds old.
Just means you're late.
Maybe it's my perspective. Yeah, see, I see things different.
It must be the white beard.
It could be. It could be that it's just, it's aging me and my mind is going. So you sell newer,
late model, used cars.
Do you call them, you don't say that pre-owned?
Pre-owned.
I like that. You don't like
pre-owned.
That? Pre-owned sounds fresh.
Yeah. They're all used.
They're all used,
yeah. And when we're looking for these cars, we have certain criteria that we're looking for. Just like any used car dealer, we want to make sure that we're getting a good product. So some of the simple things like checking the oil and looking at the tires and the condition of the vehicle is something that you do before you buy it.
Right.
You go to a used car dealership or a new car dealership, and you have certain things that you're looking for when you buy that car. I do the same thing when I buy mine.
Right.
I'm buying them to resell, but I want to make sure that I'm getting a good quality product.
So when they come in, you guys check them over and...
That's right. There's not a car that doesn't come through our shop and get a thorough inspection, not just a safety inspection, but we go over them. If maybe a heater control's not working, or maybe it needs 4 tires or 2 tires. We go all over them. We want to make sure that when the customer drives out of our lot, they don't have anything to worry about. Sometimes it's a used car, it's a machine, things happen. We give a 90-day warranty when we sell a car. So having the customer have that little sense of security when they drive away, that they don't have to do anything, and if they do, then they know they're covered.
Right. What are your thoughts on air fresheners, specifically the one that looks like a little tree?
There's
or do you have any thoughts?
Well, I do a little bit. The people used to hang them from the rearview mirror. And
I haven't seen that in a while.
For some reason, they tended to be a distraction. So
yeah. Every now and then you'd see a person and you'd have like 50 of them on there. But you're right. You look in the mirror and all you see is a forest.
Well, you know, we've got so many distractions today with driving, not just from the gadgets that all this technology has to offer in our cars, but you know, with cell phones and music and you know, kids screaming in the back seat.
Yeah.
One less distraction would be that little tree hanging from
eating
the
a donair while you're driving.
Sure.
Because people eat in their car a lot.
They do.
And I think that's a major distraction.
Yeah, it can be.
I cook in the car occasionally, but which you're making a sandwich or something. No, I don't do that. So the RCMPs out there, don't be looking at me. That was a joke. I don't cook in the car. That's a terrible thing to do. So I think we've gone over pretty much everything. What's our time like, Patrick? I can wrap it up. Well, thank you so much. Great show, Jason. I apologize that nobody called in. Obviously, people are afraid of me.
I don't think that was it at all.
It's not. I think you answered everything.
We did such a good job with the questions between ourselves that we were able to.
Well, that's great. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. You know I come off like I don't know anything because I don't. But the truth of the matter is I did learn a lot. You know, all this stuff is fascinating to me. So I thank you very much.
That's good.
And people, you really need to take care of your car. May is Car Care Month, and you should get out there, make sure your oil's changed, tires are good, everything is running smoothly so that you have a good, safe, and happy summer, because this is when people drive. They go out of town, they're taking road trips, so you want to make sure your car is in good shape. Okay, we're done. Are we done for the evening? All right, roll the music. I want to hear some music. The credits, roll the credits. The show's over. Thank you very much for watching Patry Live. We'll see you next Sunday. Good night, everybody.